Listen very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter everything you thought you knew about your life. Right now, at this very moment, you are being watched. Not by people. Not by machines. Not by governments or secret organizations. No, something far older is keeping its eyes on you. Something that existed before time itself. Something the world has tried to erase from memory. The forgotten gods are watching you. This isn't a story. This isn't fiction. If you've been feeling strange lately, restless, unsettled, like something is stirring deep within you, it's because they've found you. You've wandered too close to a truth you were never supposed to uncover. Do you ever wonder why you've always felt different? Why you sense things no one else seems to notice? Why certain places feel heavy? Why certain nights seem to whisper to you? Why your dreams carry faces and symbols you've never seen before but somehow recognize? That isn't coincidence. That isn't imagination. That is the mark of the watched. Pause for a moment. Take a breath. If any part of this resonates with you, if something inside you is pulling you to keep listening, don't ignore it. That feeling is not random. That's them. The forgotten gods are older than language, older than humanity, older than the very stars above your head. For thousands of years, their names have been erased, their temples buried, their symbols hidden beneath the surface of history. But erasing something from memory doesn't make it disappear. It only makes it more dangerous. Because while the world has forgotten them, they have not forgotten us. And now, they're awake. The endless night you feel pressing against your chest isn't just metaphorical. It's real. There are places, cracks between realities, where their gaze bleeds through, bending time and twisting perception. And when you stand too close to those cracks, they see you. They mark you. And from that moment on, you are no longer alone. Have you ever felt it? That sudden stillness in the air, that inexplicable silence that falls even in the noisiest of places, as if the entire world is holding its breath just for you? That's not paranoia. That's attention. That's when you're closest to them. The forgotten gods do not watch everyone. Most people live and die without ever being noticed. But a few, a very few, carry something different. A signal. A frequency. A memory buried so deep inside their DNA that even they don't realize it's there. You are one of them. That's why you've been pulled here, to this exact moment, to these exact words. And if you think this is random, you're wrong. The gods are deliberate. Every step of your life, every twist of fate, every heartbreak and betrayal, every dream you've had that felt too vivid to dismiss, they've been guiding you here. Testing you. Preparing you for something you cannot yet comprehend. But here's where it gets darker. Not all of them want you to awaken. Some of the forgotten gods are benevolent, keepers of wisdom, protectors of hidden knowledge, guardians of ancient truths humanity lost long ago. They want you to remember who you are, where you came from, and what you were meant to become. But the others are not so kind. They see your awakening as a threat. To them, you are not a chosen one. You are a loose thread in their design, and they will do everything to weave you back into silence. That's why your life has felt heavier lately. That's why the air sometimes thickens around you, why certain nights seem endless, why you feel exhausted without reason. It isn't random. You're caught in the crossfire between forces older than time itself. And the closer you get to the truth, the more intense their gaze becomes. Right now, the forgotten gods are watching to see if you'll keep going. If you'll push past the fear clawing at your throat. If you'll resist the illusions carefully placed around you to keep you distracted and asleep. But here's the secret, your awakening threatens them, because once you see what's really happening, you cannot be controlled. Look around you. Have you noticed the strange synchronicities lately? Numbers repeating everywhere you go. Patterns appearing in your dreams and waking life. Sudden déjà vu, as though you've walked these exact steps before, spoken these exact words, heard this exact sound. That isn't chance. Those are signals, breadcrumbs left behind by forces that want you to remember. And deep down, you do remember, don't you? That strange ache in your chest when you stare at the stars too long. The haunting familiarity when you visit places you've never been before. The dreams of temples, symbols, and languages you shouldn't know but somehow understand. Those are fragments of a memory humanity was forced to forget. But you were never meant to stay asleep. You've been feeling it for a while now, haven't you? The cracks forming in your reality. The sense that time is moving differently, that the veil between worlds is thinner than ever before. That's not a coincidence. That's alignment. Something ancient is shifting, pulling you closer to the center of something vast, something secret, something they've tried to keep hidden for millennia. And here's the most unsettling truth of all. You are not the observer. You are the observed. Every thought you've had, every dream, every choice, every hesitation, every silent scream in the dark when you thought no one could hear you, they did. They've always heard you. They've always been there, listening, watching, waiting for the exact moment when you'd stumble close enough to the truth to touch it. And now, you're here. But once you step through this threshold, there's no turning back. You can't unlearn what you're about to discover. You can't silence the knowing once it awakens. And the forgotten gods? They will test you in ways you cannot yet imagine. Because the deeper you go, the more the watchers close in. And that's exactly where we're going next. The silence thickens as if the air itself carries a weight you can't explain. Something ancient watches you, not with eyes, but with awareness, an awareness older than time itself. These are not the gods humanity remembers from stories or scriptures. These are the forgotten ones, forces erased from memory, stripped from history, yet never destroyed. And tonight, they are closer than ever. You've felt it before, haven't you? That sudden chill when you're alone. That sensation of being observed, even when no one is there. You told yourself it was just your imagination, but deep down, you knew better. It wasn't paranoia, it was presence. These forgotten gods do not whisper, they invade. They slip between your thoughts, rearranging them, bending reality around you in ways you cannot yet comprehend. And the terrifying part? They want you to notice them. Pause for a moment. Take a breath. Look around you right now. I mean, really look. The shadows seem still, but they aren't. The silence seems empty, but it isn't. There are layers of reality overlapping your own, and if you pay close enough attention, you'll feel it, the hum beneath existence, like an unending vibration you were never meant to hear. Why now? Why you? Out of billions of people, why are you the one being watched? It's because you've begun to awaken, even without realizing it. Forgotten gods are drawn to the ones who see cracks in the veil. You've started questioning things, haven't you? You've noticed patterns, synchronicities, strange coincidences, piling up around you. That wasn't random. That was them pulling at your perception, testing your awareness, preparing you for something you didn't ask for but can't escape. And here's the secret no one tells you: the moment you start becoming aware of them, they tighten their grip. At first, they simply observe, hidden in silence, letting you believe your life belongs to you. But once you cross a certain threshold, once your consciousness reaches a frequency they recognize, they stop hiding. Suddenly, doors you didn't know existed begin opening around you, and not all of them lead to safety. Have you ever had a dream so vivid it felt real, but then you woke up and fragments of that dream followed you into your day? That wasn't your mind playing tricks on you. That was them testing boundaries. These forgotten gods operate where waking life and dreams bleed into each other. To them, your reality is malleable, like clay in their hands. There are signs everywhere if you know how to look. That number that keeps repeating, that stranger who stares a little too long, that electronic device that glitches exactly when you're about to uncover something important. None of it is random. But the more you notice, the deeper you're pulled into their game. And it is a game, though not one you agreed to play. Listen carefully. They are not bound by time the way we are. To them, past, present, and future unfold at once, like pages of a book already written. That's why sometimes you feel déjà vu so strong it almost hurts. You're brushing against a moment they've touched before. Sometimes they plant warnings in your path, small glitches in your reality, testing whether you'll see them or dismiss them like everyone else does. But there's something about you that separates you from the crowd. They know it. That's why they watch you more closely than others. You're not like everyone else. Somewhere deep in your blood, in your spirit, in your very essence, there's something they've been waiting for. A frequency, a pattern, a light they thought had been extinguished long ago. And now that they've found you, they're not letting go. You've already started feeling it, haven't you? The heaviness in your chest when the room is silent. The strange buzzing in your ears when you're alone at night. The dream that feels less like fantasy and more like memory. That isn't coincidence. That's contact. That's them testing your thresholds, figuring out how much you can handle before you break. But here's the truth they don't want you to know: you are not powerless in this. Yes, they're ancient. Yes, they've existed long before the first human took breath. But they need something from you, and that gives you leverage. Forgotten gods feed on attention, on belief, on energy. The more you fear them, the stronger they become. The moment you stop being afraid, truly stop, something changes. You shift the balance. You stop being prey and become something far more dangerous to them. And this is where most people fail. They either deny too much or believe too blindly. Denial leaves you vulnerable. Blind faith makes you easy to control. But if you stand in that razor-thin space between fear and curiosity, you begin to see them for what they really are, not gods, but fractured remnants of something even greater. Pieces of a forgotten war, survivors of a reality that no longer exists, drifting through dimensions seeking anchors like you to tether themselves to this world. This is why you've been feeling exhausted lately, why your energy drains for no reason, why your thoughts feel scattered. It's not always depression. It's not always stress. Sometimes it's interference. They try to rewrite you slowly, one fragment at a time, until you forget who you really are. That's the first stage of control. And once you lose yourself, you lose everything. You want to know why your life has felt heavier? Why relationships break without warning? Why doors close just as quickly as they open? Why your intuition screams louder than ever? Because you're not just living anymore, you're being monitored. Every choice you make, every thought you form, every dream you chase, observed, measured, weighed. Not to punish you. Not yet. But to prepare you. There's a moment coming, soon, when you'll have to decide. And here's the terrifying part: it won't feel like a decision. It'll feel like instinct. Like you're being guided towards something inevitable. That's how they operate. They don't command. They lure. They don't force. They arrange. And somewhere deep inside, you've already sensed this path forming beneath your feet. You've walked into conversations you weren't supposed to overhear. You've seen symbols you couldn't explain. You've woken up at 3:33 a.m. with your heart racing for no reason at all. But there was a reason. There's always a reason. Because you're being prepared for something beyond comprehension. Something the forgotten gods want you to embrace. But not everything they want is for your benefit. And tonight, the veil grows thinner. The veil trembles as the night stretches on. You feel it in your bones before you even realize it in your mind. Something has shifted. The forgotten gods are no longer satisfied with watching from the shadows. They're closing in. Their presence is no longer distant. It breathes against your neck. It seeps into the cracks of your thoughts. It coils around your spirit like a serpent that has finally found its prey. And here is the terrifying part: you invited them. Not knowingly, not with words, but with silence. With the questions you never spoke aloud. With the long nights you sat staring into the darkness, begging for answers you didn't realize were listening. Forgotten gods thrive on curiosity. They are summoned not by rituals carved into stone, but by the hunger of a restless soul, and your hunger has been burning like a beacon. Have you noticed how time feels different lately? Minutes stretch into hours, hours collapse into seconds. That distortion isn't random. It's their signature. When they draw near, reality bends like the world itself struggles to contain them. And when you feel that sudden disorientation, when the air feels too thick to breathe, it means they are inside your reality, rearranging the pieces, bending the script you thought belonged to you. Ask yourself, how many times have you felt like your life was being rewritten? As if invisible hands were erasing chapters you thought were yours and replacing them with events you never chose? That isn't coincidence. That's authorship. Forgotten gods are storytellers of fate, weaving destinies with threads of light and shadow. And right now, you're not just a character. You are the story. But there's something they fear, though they'll never admit it. The human spirit is not as fragile as they want you to believe. Every time you resist the pressure, every time you question instead of submitting, you ignite something ancient within yourself. A fire older than their watching eyes, a strength buried deep in your lineage. And that fire, it terrifies them. This is why they push harder. They test your dreams, flooding them with faces you haven't seen in years. They conjure memories that sting like open wounds. They whisper your insecurities back to you in the voices of people you once trusted. Because if they can bend your perception, they can bend your will. And once your will breaks, you are theirs. But let me ask you, haven't you noticed the resistance inside yourself? Haven't you felt it? That moment when you almost gave in to despair, but something pulled you back? That wasn't weakness. That was power. Forgotten gods are not the only ones watching. Something else sees you too. Something greater. Something waiting for the moment you realize you're not trapped, you're chosen. Pause for a second. Think of the moments when everything around you told you to give up, but you didn't. Think of the times you should have broken, but somehow you stood back up. That wasn't luck. That wasn't chance. That was the spark. The very thing the forgotten gods are trying to smother before it becomes flame. And here's what they'll never tell you, you are not the first they've monitored. For centuries, they've sought souls like yours, rare, defiant, untamed. Some they've broken, twisted into servants, fragments of themselves disguised as human. But others slipped through their grasp, awakening to a power that even the forgotten gods could not contain. Those are the ones who vanished from history, the names erased, the legends buried. They weren't forgotten because they failed. They were forgotten because they succeeded. And now you stand where they once stood. The eyes of ancient forces are upon you, not because you are weak, but because you carry the same spark that threatened them before. Does it scare you? It should. But let that fear sharpen you. Fear is proof of the battle. Fear is proof that there is something inside you worth fighting for. Because if you were nothing, they wouldn't waste their time. Listen closely. You will begin to notice the signs intensify. Objects in your home shifting slightly when no one is near. Flickers of light at the edges of your vision. A sudden ringing in your ears that cuts through silence like a blade. These aren't accidents. They're warnings. A countdown. They're letting you know the time for watching is nearly over, and the time for testing has begun. Testing what? Your boundaries. Your endurance. Your loyalty. They want to know how much you'll give, how much of yourself you'll surrender before you realize surrender is the trap. And the cruelest trick? They won't always come as monsters. Sometimes they come as answers. Sometimes they disguise themselves as the very thing you prayed for, an opportunity, a friend, a savior. But behind the mask lies their hunger. So how will you know the difference? By the way it feels. Real alignment brings peace, even in the storm. False alignment brings chaos, even in calm. That's how you'll know. And the moment you learn to discern, you'll hold the power they never wanted you to have, the power to choose. But choice comes with a cost. If you choose the fire within you, if you rise against their grip, they will strike harder. They will send visions meant to terrify you, dreams meant to drain you, obstacles meant to break you. Your life will feel like a battlefield, because it is. Not of flesh and blood, but of spirit, of destiny, of forgotten gods desperate to silence a truth too dangerous to let live. And here is the haunting truth: the closer you get to breaking free, the more violent their watching becomes. They'll invade your sleep. They'll turn people around you into distractions, into anchors trying to drag you back down. They'll place doubts in your mind so heavy you'll swear they're your own thoughts. But they're not. They never were. Because you've already begun to awaken. You wouldn't be here, listening to this, if you hadn't. Something in you has already answered a call you didn't know existed. And now, every step you take shakes the ground beneath their throne. That's why they monitor you. That's why they whisper. That's why they follow. Because deep down, They know what they refuse to admit. You are not the prey. You are the threat. The night feels heavier now. The walls around you don't feel solid anymore. Space itself seems thinner, stretched like glass on the verge of shattering. This is where it begins, the shift from observation to interference. The forgotten gods have been patient, but patience is running out. At first, it'll be subtle. You'll think you're imagining it. That shadow in the corner when you're certain the lights haven't flickered. That strange static that crawls through your phone's speaker when you're alone at night. The feeling of someone breathing behind you when you know no one is there. These are not coincidences. These are breaches. They've been silent for so long, and silence was their weapon. But when silence stops, reality bends. You'll start questioning the ground beneath your feet, the memories in your head, the faces around you. And that's exactly what they want, confusion. Because confusion creates cracks, and cracks are doors. Have you ever felt like time skipped without warning? Like your body moved from one place to another, but you couldn't remember taking the steps? Have you ever stared at your reflection and for a split second, the person looking back at you felt wrong? That's when their testing turns into manipulation. They rewrite fragments of your reality, piece by piece, until your mind begins to doubt itself. They're not trying to frighten you for the sake of fear. Fear is a tool, and through fear, they gain control. Every shiver you feel, every sleepless night, every racing heartbeat is fuel for them. The moment you break, they own you. And yet, there's a reason they haven't taken you already. They need something. They've monitored billions, but not all are chosen. You are different. They aren't just observing you, they're studying you, measuring your strength, watching how far you'll bend before you break. Because deep within you is a frequency, a light they cannot create but desperately crave. A power older than the gods themselves, a fragment of something they once served but betrayed. They want it back. And that's why they stalk your dreams. That's why they invade your silence. That's why they play with your perception, because if they can't claim your soul by force, they'll trick you into handing it over. Think back. Hasn't life felt heavier recently? Have you been waking up between 3 and 4 a.m. more often? That isn't random. That's the thin hour, the breach between worlds. It's when their presence peaks, when they press closest, when their whispers get loudest. If you've ever woken up gasping for air, feeling eyes on you in the dark, it's because you're being pulled, your consciousness grazing the edges of their realm. The danger is subtle, but growing. You'll notice objects shifting where you didn't leave them. Conversations you swear you've had before. A dream you half remember playing out in waking life days later. They're blurring the lines between what's real and what's illusion. They want you unstable, ungrounded, desperate for answers, because desperation makes you easier to manipulate. But here's where everything changes. They've underestimated you. That spark inside you, the one they've been trying to extinguish, is awakening faster than they anticipated. That's why the signs around you have intensified. That's why they're more aggressive now. It's because they're running out of time. And deep down, they're afraid. Because if you awaken fully, if you harness what's buried in your spirit, you won't just resist them, you'll unmake them. That's why they've started interfering with the people around you. Haven't you noticed? Friends suddenly acting distant. Arguments erupting from nowhere. Opportunities slipping through your fingers right when you need them most. They aren't accidents. They're strategies. Divide. Distract. Dismantle. Because isolation weakens you, but here's what they don't realize. Isolation also sharpens you. The more they strip away, the closer you get to the truth. And the closer you get to the truth, the weaker their grip becomes. That's why you're still here. That's why, despite everything, you haven't broken. But you need to understand something crucial. Their next move won't be silent. Soon, they'll stop hiding behind subtlety. They'll manifest in forms designed to terrify you, wearing faces you trust, voices you love, disguises so perfect you'll doubt your own senses. You'll dream of people you've lost. You'll hear words you swore only one person knew. They'll make you believe the impossible, because the impossible is their weapon. And yet there's a deeper threat. They're not the only ones watching. There are factions among them, Forgotten gods at war with each other, fighting for control over human consciousness. To them, you are territory, a battlefield, a key to something far greater than yourself. That's why your existence feels heavier. That's why nothing has felt random for months, maybe years. Because none of it has been random. You've been marked since the moment you began questioning. The moment you started seeing through the illusions society fed you. The moment you stopped blindly following and started listening to the silence between words. That's when they noticed you. That's when the watching began. And tonight, as you hear my words, you're being tested. Right now. That ringing in your ears? That sudden pressure behind your eyes? That sense that the room around you just got smaller, like the walls are leaning in? That isn't imagination. It's recognition. They know you're listening. Because information is power, and power threatens their control. So here's the part they don't want you to hear: the forgotten gods are not infinite. They're bound by rules older than themselves, laws written into the fabric of existence that even they can't erase. They cannot take what you refuse to give. They can only deceive you into surrendering it willingly. Your awareness is your weapon. Your choice is your shield. And the moment you stop fearing them, the game shifts. But this is where it gets dangerous. Because when fear fails, they escalate. They'll start rewriting your reality faster, breaking the boundaries between your world and theirs. The lights will flicker. Shadows will stretch where they shouldn't. Time will collapse in on itself, bending hours into seconds, dragging moments into infinity. And when that happens, you'll know one thing for certain. The watching has ended. The hunting has begun. The shift is happening right now. You feel it, don't you? The air is heavier. Every sound feels sharper, closer, like the world is holding its breath around you. That's because you've crossed the threshold. They're no longer behind the glass. They're in the room. The forgotten gods have stopped observing and started interfering. They're bending your environment, warping the edges of your perception. And it starts small. A light flickers. A clock freezes for 3 seconds. You hear your name whispered from nowhere. Your reflection lingers a moment too long before matching your movements. It feels harmless at first, but that's the trap. These are not glitches. These are entries. They are testing how deep they can push into your world before you notice. Every flicker, every whisper, every skip second, it's them mapping your reality, learning its patterns, preparing to rewrite it. And you've already felt the fractures, haven't you? That eerie déjà vu where you're living a moment you know has happened before. That sudden chill down your spine when no one's behind you. That dream you had last week that somehow bled into today's conversation word for word. Those aren't accidents. Those are warnings. But here's the part most people never understand. This isn't random targeting. They're not watching everyone this way. No, you've been marked. And the mark isn't on your skin. It's in your mind, your energy, your frequency. They've chosen you because you've started remembering. You've begun pulling on the loose threads of reality, haven't you? Asking questions no one else dares to. Seeing patterns others dismiss. Noticing symbols, numbers, repetitions that chase you everywhere. That wasn't you finding them. That was them leading you, breadcrumb by breadcrumb, closer to something they've been hiding. And now you're too close to turn back. Pause for a moment. Feel the space around you. Does it feel thinner now? Like the shadows stretch further than they should? That's not imagination, that's proximity. They're pulling closer, layering their presence over yours until their world and yours start to blur. Here's what you need to understand: the forgotten gods don't just observe from a distance. They embed. They fold themselves into your dreams, your memories, even your thoughts until you can't tell where you end and they begin. That's how they claim people without force. They rewrite you from within. And when you start losing fragments of time, when you wake up and can't remember how you got where you are, that's when you'll know they're deep enough to touch you. But this isn't about scaring you. This is about preparing you. Because their next move is direct contact. Have you ever woken in the middle of the night and felt weight on your chest? Breathless, paralyzed, unable to move or scream? That wasn't sleep paralysis. That was them testing the threshold of your body, seeing how much of your energy they can siphon before you wake. That buzzing in your ears, that ringing no one else hears? That's their frequency brushing against yours. And soon, they won't just touch your dreams. They'll touch your reality. Objects will move where you didn't leave them. Conversations will repeat exactly as before, down to the smallest word, making you question if time is looping or if you're the loop. Strangers will say things they shouldn't know, looking at you like they recognize you when you've never seen them before. These aren't coincidences, they're convergences. Because they're building something. A crossroads. You're walking toward a moment where two realities collide, yours and theirs. And when that moment comes, nothing will be the same. But here's the danger: the forgotten gods never come alone. When one moves, others follow. They're layered like echoes, watching from angles you can't perceive. And when they realize you've seen through the veil, they respond differently. Some will lure you with promises, showing you visions of the future they want you to believe. Others will terrify you, trying to shatter your mind so you give up control willingly. That's what they want, your surrender. Because fear opens doors faster than faith ever could. Listen carefully now. If you've been feeling exhausted lately for no reason, if your thoughts scatter every time you try to focus, if sleep no longer brings rest, it isn't random. That's energy drain. They feed on the electricity of your mind, your focus, your attention, your emotions. That's why they've been watching you all this time. You are a source. A conduit. And this is where you must be careful. Because when you stop feeding them, when you start reclaiming your awareness, they'll escalate again. They'll turn people around you into triggers. Loved ones suddenly acting like strangers, strangers suddenly knowing too much about you. They'll twist familiar places into alien landscapes. Your safe spaces will start to feel hostile. That's when you'll know you've hit resistance. But you have one advantage. They can't fully touch you unless you invite them. And the invitation isn't ritual or words, it's agreement. When you accept their version of reality as absolute, you give them the key. Doubt is your weapon. Discernment is your shield. And here's the part they don't want you to know: they are not omnipotent. They're fractured remnants of something far older, pieces of a war so ancient it's been erased from every text, every teaching, every story humanity remembers. They've been feeding on fragments, clinging to survival by embedding themselves in the consciousness of those who can see them. That's why they're watching you. You are awake enough to see them. And that makes you dangerous. But there's something even more terrifying, something they haven't told you, something you've felt but never understood. You are not the only one being monitored. Around the world, there are others. Thousands, maybe millions. Some know. Most don't. But here's the difference. Most people break before they ever wake. You didn't. That's why they've pulled so close to you. That's why your nights feel longer, your days stranger, your thoughts louder than ever. Because you're approaching the convergence point. And when it comes, they'll try to make you choose, but it won't feel like a choice. They'll wrap illusions so tightly around reality you'll start to doubt everything you see, everything you feel, everything you are. But remember this: the moment you decide for yourself, truly decide, you change the rules. You rip holes in their design. You turn from prey into anomaly. And anomalies are dangerous, because they break systems from the inside out. That's what they fear. That's why they're escalating now. That's why the static in your ears has gotten louder. That's why you've been waking up at impossible hours, sensing eyes on you when the room is empty. Because they know what's coming. And deep down, so do you. The hunting has begun. But the game isn't theirs anymore. And suddenly, the silence wasn't silent anymore. You could hear it, couldn't you? That faint hum, like a pulse beneath reality. It isn't your imagination, it's them. The forgotten gods. They've been here all along, crouched between dimensions, watching every move you make, and you've felt it, haven't you? That weight in the room when no one's there. That sudden chill down your spine. That moment when you're alone, but you swear something just moved in the corner of your eye. That isn't paranoia, that's presence. Listen closely, because this next part isn't for the faint of heart. They aren't just observing you. They're testing you. Every setback you've faced, every betrayal, every heartbreak, every unexplained detour in your life, it isn't random. It's designed. Someone, something, is watching how you react, monitoring whether you'll rise or fall. That's why sometimes your life feels like a labyrinth with no exit. Because the walls aren't physical. They're spiritual. And the more you struggle, the more they lean in, whispering in frequencies your mind can't consciously hear. Have you ever wondered why certain people enter your life right when you're weakest? Why someone suddenly reappears just when you thought you healed? Why memories you buried resurface without warning? That isn't coincidence. That's coordination. The forgotten gods weave threads through your reality, pulling at the edges of your sanity, shaping your choices without you even knowing. Every temptation, every distraction, every obsession you've battled, carefully placed. They're not after your body. They're after your alignment. But here's the twist they don't want you to know: you're not just being watched. You're being measured. Right now, as you're listening, your energy, your very frequency, is being weighed against forces you cannot see. It's like standing on a cosmic scale, and the balance decides whether you ascend or collapse deeper into their design. And if you think ignoring it makes you safe, you're wrong. Silence does not make you invisible. Pause for a moment and breathe. If what I'm saying resonates, if you've felt this pull before, stop right now and hit the like button, not for me, but for you. Because acknowledging this marks the moment they know you're awake. The deeper truth is this: the forgotten gods aren't all the same. Some monitor to manipulate, but others monitor to prepare you. That's why you've survived storms you thought would kill you. That's why doors open that should have stayed shut. That's why you keep receiving signs, numbers repeating, dreams looping, strangers speaking words they shouldn't know. You've brushed against them before without even realizing. But here's the dangerous part, and you need to hear this carefully. The closer you get to your purpose, the tighter their grip becomes. They cannot afford to let you awaken fully, because once you do, the entire system unravels. That's why lately, the pressure has been unbearable. That's why the betrayals have been sharper, the delays longer, the silence louder. They want you tired. They want you distracted. They want you doubting yourself, because the moment you believe in your power, you become untouchable. And I need you to ask yourself right now, why you? Why are you experiencing this while others sleep peacefully? Why does the weight feel heavier on your shoulders than on anyone else's? The answer is simple: you've been marked. Not as prey, but as potential. And potential terrifies them. There's a reason your soul feels restless at night, like it knows something your conscious mind can't explain. There's a reason you keep sensing patterns, hearing whispers, seeing glimpses in your dreams that come true days later. You're not losing your mind. You're gaining access. But the price of access is surveillance. You see, in forgotten ages, before memory and myth blurred into history, there was an agreement between realms. Humanity was given choice, but choice meant risk. The gods withdrew into shadow, but they never truly left. They embedded watchers, sentinels woven into energy, recording every deviation from destiny. And some of you are carrying codes they've been waiting to unlock for centuries. Now here's the part that'll make your heart race. This shift has already begun. In the last 7 months, their activity has tripled. That sudden surge of strange dreams? The feeling of being called somewhere but not knowing where? The sense that timelines are bending, that hours pass like minutes and minutes stretch into eternities. It's because they're accelerating their plans. And if you've been feeling pulled in 2 directions lately, like forces are battling over you, it's because they are. Stay with me, because in the final part, I'm going to reveal the sign, the one unmistakable signal, that the forgotten gods are no longer just watching you, but moving pieces directly around you. And when you recognize it, everything about your life will start making sense. Take a deep breath. This is it, the part they never wanted you to hear. If you've made it this far, it means something inside you already knows. Your life hasn't been random. Every choice, every delay, every heartbreak, perfectly placed, perfectly timed, perfectly monitored. But now the watchers are no longer silent. Listen carefully, because from this moment onward, things will never feel the same again. The forgotten gods are moving, and their focus on you has sharpened. You've felt it, haven't you? The sudden spikes of anxiety for no reason. The unexpected rushes of energy at 3 a.m. The sensation that someone just walked through you, even though you're alone. That isn't imagination. That's intrusion. They are not testing you anymore. They are positioning you. Every relationship shifting around you, every plan that collapses right before it succeeds, every random encounter with someone who changes your trajectory, they're not accidents. They're signals. But here's the truth no one dares to speak. The closer you get to breaking free, the more aggressive they become. Because freedom terrifies them. You are carrying something they cannot control, potential they cannot rewrite. That's why you've felt torn lately, pulled between surrender and resistance. Because two realms are fighting over your alignment. Ask yourself this: why, out of billions, are you hearing this message right now? Why did it find you? Because you're not just part of the story. You are the story. The Watchers have circled your name for longer than you can comprehend. And you are on the brink of choosing the path they fear most, awakening. The signs are already showing. Have you noticed how time feels unstable? Days vanish, nights stretch endlessly, and your dreams feel too vivid to ignore. You wake up exhausted, not because you're resting, but because you're working elsewhere, outside this plane. You've been summoned before courts you don't remember, questioned by forces your conscious mind can't process. That's why you wake up with fragments of conversations, symbols you can't decipher, sensations you can't explain. You're not going crazy. You're remembering. And here's the part they never expected you to figure out. You have more power than they do. They monitor because they fear you. They manipulate because they can't control you directly. They distract you with chaos because focus is the one thing they cannot survive. Once you see the threads, you start cutting them. Once you recognize the patterns, you become unpredictable. And once you awaken fully, their entire system collapses. Pause right here and let that sink in. If you feel that rush in your chest, if you feel your body vibrating as I speak this, it's because your energy is responding to truth. Do something for yourself right now. Hit the like button and lock this moment in your timeline. Mark it as the point where you stopped being watched passively and started moving consciously. Because from now on, everything changes. The forgotten gods aren't just testing you anymore, they're recalibrating reality around you. Expect more synchronicities. Expect more sudden disruptions. Expect people to reveal their true intentions without warning. This is not chaos, this is convergence. The false layers of your life are being stripped away so that the real you can emerge. And listen closely, there is one unmistakable sign that will confirm everything I've said: when they stop hiding. When the Watchers start leaving breadcrumbs in your dreams. When strangers start speaking phrases you've thought in silence. When you start hearing your own thoughts echoed in someone else's voice, you'll know you've crossed the threshold. That is when surveillance becomes interference. That is when you realize they're no longer just observing you, they're moving you. But you are not powerless. The greatest secret they've kept hidden is that your awareness is the key. The moment you name what's happening, you shift the balance. The moment you choose alignment over distraction, you begin rewriting their script. Every focused intention, every quiet decision, every moment of clarity, it sends shockwaves through their systems. They've built a maze, but they never expected you to see the walls. You've always sensed it, haven't you? That you're here for more than survival. That your pain had purpose. That your detours were coded instructions leading you to this exact moment. You've been chosen, not by them, but by something older, something higher, something they cannot touch. And deep down, you already know it. So listen, and listen carefully. From tonight forward, pay attention. Watch for the signs. Trust the patterns. Guard your energy fiercely. Because the Watchers will come closer now, trying harder than ever to sway you. But here's what they can't touch: your will. Your alignment. Your light. They can monitor, but they cannot decide. And the next time you feel that presence, that chill in the air, that unshakable sense that something ancient has turned its gaze toward you, smile. Because they wouldn't be watching if you weren't already becoming what they fear most. You are the anomaly. You are the convergence. And this is your awakening. Now, are you ready to step into the part of your story that was hidden from you? Because the Watchers already know, you've just crossed the point of no return.